Hello everyone, this finally came, which I've been waiting for a while. It's a Vostok Amphibia, and if you don't know what one of those is, it's probably one of the strongest watches ever made in the world. Basically, it's a Soviet engineered diver's watch, and it's got quite an interesting history behind it. This one is the 420 bezel. This is the bezel around the outside. They have designation numbers, and it's face number 386, which is a scuba dude one. You can see there it's got the black outline of a scuba diver. They're called the scuba dude faces normally, and yeah, it's face 386, which is a sort of green aquamarine sort of coloured dial, which I quite like. So it's a purely mechanical watch. You wind it up with the crown here, and it also has a date on this one. And it's got a stainless steel strap a lot of people don't like. I've adjusted it to my size, but I have ordered a replacement strap which I'm going to put on it. It's a 18mm strap, I believe, so hopefully when the new one comes it will fit alright. So, a bit of history about the watch. Basically, the Vostok company, which is just Russian, it means east, was a watchmaker that was relocated sort of east, either to Siberia or somewhere else in that sort of area in Russia during World War II. So the Germans couldn't bomb them while they carried out, obviously industrial work producing things. And after the war they specialised in making watches. And they did in the 60s, I think it was about 67, 68, win a contract with the Soviet Army and Navy to build the sort of watches for all the infantry. But these are actually very well made, the Amphibias, which is the surprising bit about them. So, what basically happened, and there's videos where you can find a complete history on these if you want sort of more info, or it better presented than what I'm going to say, is basically they had a load of Western watches like Amigas and Rolex, sort of Submariners, the Amiga Seamasters and things like that, and they wanted to make a watch of that sort of quality, but obviously on a really low budget, because Amigas and Rolexes cost several thousand, plus. At the time they didn't, because they weren't such a fashion item then, but they were expensive, well-made watches. And the Soviets needed to do it on a budget. So what they did, which is very clever, is they essentially backwards engineered them and made them with less components. So what we've got is a mechanical watch, and it's automatic, so doing that charges it as well as actually pulling the crown out. And you've got, rather than mineral glass, you've got a special kind of Soviet acrylic, which has been angled just the right way so that it withstands pressure up to 200 meters, and that the water pressure will actually cause the watch face to, like the glass, the acrylic, to bend in with the force of the water rather than breaking, which is quite cool. And on the back you've got a seal that's a lot better than the old type O-ring seals that Rolexes used to use. They have this sort of slightly magnetic seal where the water pressure actually makes the watch close up tighter rather than forcing it apart. So you've basically got this really strong watch. The bezel doesn't click on here, it just twists. Some people complain about that, but it's designed that way. So you can use it as a timer. So if we were timing diving from now, you'd put that red one there to where the minute hand is. Once you get, so that's 5, 10, 15, 20, so you'd get 20 minutes time there, and then the rest of the 40 minutes are on the black. So if you had 20 minutes of oxygen, you'd know that when you were getting to there, that's where your time's going to run out. So it's a very simple bezel to use. And that tells the time. So yeah, it winds up, and it holds about 31 hours of charge inside the watch when it's fully wound. And as I was saying, these things are tough. There's videos on YouTube, I'm not obviously going to do it with mine because I don't want to damage it in any way. But there's videos on YouTube where people are putting these in like industrial freezers, throwing them off buildings, running them over, and they still keep ticking. You pretty much can't break this watch. Anything that would happen to you would kill you, but the watch will keep on ticking because it's Soviet engineered. It's basically the Kalashnikov of watches, where you've got something that's incredibly tough. It's not the most accurate timepiece. Apparently they gain about 10 seconds a day, but that's acceptable for me really, because I wanted this as a nicer watch for work, where I wouldn't care if I beat it up, but it looks nice and it's interesting, and I like the history behind it. So I'm now going to show you what it looks like with the glow-in-the-dark face. A lot of people can complain the glow-in-the-dark face isn't very good, but from mine it seems alright, so I'll show you that now. That's what the dial looks like just after being exposed to sunlight when I was talking about the watch just now. And what I'll get in a minute is an ultraviolet torch and shine it on so you can see what it looks like fully charged. Or, you know, immediately after absorbing some UV light. I think what people have complained about is that the dial sort of glow fades off quite quickly compared to some watches, but it is actually very bright. But bear in mind, as it's intended as a diver's watch, that glow in the dark is probably only meant to last as long as your oxygen does, because that would make sense. So it's probably been timed that way, I'd guess, not just as a general, you know, glow in the dark all night long thing. So let me get the UV light and we'll see what it looks like when it's been straight hit by UV. Okay, so that's charging the face now with UV. Obviously the problem with using a UV torch like this is that the actual effect isn't like UV radiation from sunlight, so the glow fades a lot quicker. But we should be able to see as soon as I take this off in a moment what it would actually look like at its brightest, but it would obviously last longer in direct sunlight. So that's how bright it looks if you've been having it in sunlight for ages. As you can see, I think that's perfectly bright enough. In the pitch black you'd be able to tell where the hour and minute hand are, even if you couldn't tell where all the number dials are. So yeah, this is the Vostok Amphibia. I'm going to replace the strap on it, but this is probably the toughest watch in the world, or one of them.